Welcome to the Outer Realms with Michelle Desrochers and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Wednesday night segment of The Outer Realm. We are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network, UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 FM from the Gulf Coast, 107.7 FM from New Orleans. We're fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee, who have been a part of our journey for the last few years. Thank you, Folgers. We appreciate you so very much. Couldn't do it without you, nor would we want to. Also, big thank you to Justin Snicker, a.k.a. Dr. Snick, the Sonic Surgeon, for the contribution of his time, his music, and his voice for the intro you just heard. He's an award-winning composer of Halloween, horror, sci-fi, and dark wave electronic music, which can be found on all of your favorite music streaming platforms. Also, thank you to Steve McGinnis, the artist behind the banners and logos here at the show. Check him out on Facebook and Instagram. Also specializes in the horror genre, but does amazing commission pieces of all types. So tonight, guys, we welcome back. We've been waiting for this. Kevin Estrella, who was with us a few weeks ago with major tech issues, and we're thinking maybe, ET or other ominous somebody did not want his message getting out. But I would think that the Ponte would want the message getting out there. They just seem very playful. Anyway, he is back, and he's going to talk to us about his experiences, his research, his study of extraterrestrials, his journey, his mission. There's so much to it. And I know we were all hanging in there like by a thread last week. We just wanted to know more and more. And tonight, we're definitely going to be able to do that. And in order to do that, you're going to have to be on one of our 8 platforms. 7 of them, you guys know the drill, all have chat rooms, and Roku TV does not have a chat room, but you will be able to listen in there live and catch the archive after the fact, as well as going on Amazon Alexa and just kind of blurting it out there, and she'll bring it right back up for you. So remember, 7 chat rooms is like a superhighway going down into one lane. And we have to keep up with what the guest is talking about. So I will be, we can actually highlight the comments that we can get back to. But if you don't get your comment up there, I may flash things up there. And if you have a question, we will get to it. You're just going to have to be patient with us for sure. Tonight, Mercury. Why is everything just highlighted in ways that I am?
Oh my gosh!
What this is.
Hope you're staying safe in Colorado, Heidi. Yeah,
I know, right? This is just a little bit of cray right here. I don't know what this all is. There we go. Okay, I think we're back to normal. So, without further ado, welcome our special guest, Kevin Estrella. Hi.
Hello.
Oh, wait. There we go. There we are.
Oh, there we go.
Okay. Oh my goodness. Wowzers. I was going to say no.
Oh, not again.
We're just getting started.
No, I noticed the thing right away. Noticed the microphone right away.
There we go. Perfect.
Well, welcome back.
Thank you. Glad to be back.
Oh, well, we're thrilled to have you back. I know there's a lot of people waiting for you to return and, get your message out, because it was getting really, really to a point where every time you dropped out, I think we all wanted to cry.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
It was very frustrating.
It's very reminiscent of a few of our guests who have real serious former positions still, who have come on the show to talk everything otherworldly. And it has happened where there's 2 of them that we can't even get a show. It never fails.
Really?
Yeah.
Nothing like yours, though.
No, not that bad. They can
Yeah.
come in and talk. But the first time with Daryl Sims was crazy. It just kept going, and I'm like, are you kidding me?
Mm.
Yeah. And I was new at that. So I was freaked out. But anyways,
Yeah.
fingers
Alien.
crossed. Fingers crossed, Kevin, this one works. And let's go.
All right, guys, we're on the air. Okay. There
We
go.
are. We are. All
I
right.
like that.
So we're going to start again from the very beginning and, talk about your, what I like to call humble beginnings. If you had any childhood experiences, there's a strong belief that people who are experiencers later in life, it's either generational, goes back to family lines, or that you would have had experiences as a child. So how does it with you?
Well, well, actually, I'll first kind of introduce, who it is I am and where it is my mission is, and
Beautiful.
also I'm sure a lot of people behind me are curious to know what are those portraits behind me.
Yes.
My name is Kevin Estrella. I'm the guitarist of the instrumental rock band Pyramids on Mars. I'm also the host of Pyramids on Mars UFO Radio on the Artist First Network, which has been airing since 2016. So it's been airing for 8 years. Our show has a worldwide audience. I've had over 500,000 listeners, and our radio show is one of the radio shows that's actually bootlegged, pirated by at least 7 other stations across the world who are taking our signal and using it for themselves and broadcasting. But you know what? At least the message is getting out about my mission, which is to give a floor for experiencers to talk, because the only way we're going to understand about official first contact and our extraterrestrial neighbors is listening to the experiencers, the ones who are interacting with the phenomena.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Agreed.
Who are behind me? These are the Ponti, and the Ponti are Zetas from Zeta Reticuli 2 from the planet Pontel, which is the 5th planet orbiting Zeta Reticuli 2. I got introduced to them back in 2016, and can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay,
yeah,
great.
I was just waving at the chat room.
The last time with the hand signal,
I know,
they
I'm
can't
sorry.
hear you.
I'm
sorry, I
sorry.
get all PTSD,
Yeah, I get it.
It's like, oh no, they can't hear me again. It's like,
No. I'll be going like this.
Okay, all right. That'll be the hand signal. Okay.
That's
all
it,
right.
yeah.
All right. So, getting back to it, sorry, that was an inside joke. I got introduced to the Ponti through a friend of mine, who I was introduced to him through Misha Johnson, who holds experiencer support groups every week. She's been doing this for years. She's an amazing person. Besides being an experiencer, an ET hybrid mother, and a monarch survivor herself of these Illuminati sex cults. But the friend who I end up meeting said to me, "Do you realize that there are extraterrestrials using Twitter?" And I was like, "No way, get out of here." He says, "Yes, at Sandia Wisdom." And so I decided to check this out and went to Twitter. And here is it says, "My name is Commander Tilcomb. I am here to teach you archaeoplanetography and to prepare you for official first contact." And so at that point, there was only 4 of the extraterrestrials who were using Twitter, which was Radar, Commander Tilcomb. You can see behind me, I work for Tilcomb. Drudy, who's on the very bottom there, and Tani. And basically, I spent time getting to know them and ended up developing a deep friendship with them. So my mission here is I work very much in sync with the Ponti. I've been working with them since 2016, and I'll be getting into more details. But that's the main mission of who I am and what it is that I do, is working for the Ponti.
Okay.
They visit me here all the time. In fact, this wall right behind me here, you can't see it right now, but it's covered in chalk markings. They come at nighttime and they just do artwork and do all kinds of crazy stuff and write all over the walls, all around my hallways. I got hieroglyphs over on this side near the bathroom, which I still don't know what they mean. Actually, they showed up. I've got handprints behind me over here, and I've got my whole back of my bedroom is like covered in this chalk dust mural. So they come here all the time. They bump the back of the couch. They love watching me play, my PlayStation 4. They're good friends. So, right. But getting back to your question about where things kind of began for me, I end up reverse engineering my life shortly after my major UFO encounter that took place August 21st, 2014, which actually the 10th year anniversary just happened last month. But I was studying extraterrestrials since I was basically in university. That's when I got very interested in the subject. And this is going back to the year 1994. And nobody had internet in 1994. People only had internet in 2000. But there was a guy on our floor in our dormitory who actually had internet. And he had downloaded all these schematics and drawings and diagrams from Bob Lazar of these UFOs, these Hanabus that he'd been working on. And so that's where I really started to get interested in, is this real? Is this really going on? And so then I ended up purchasing a whole bunch of Bud Hopkins books on alien abductions and read many of those books and really started doing a deep dive into the ET phenomenon. And then the movie Communion came out, and that was really it was a huge it had a big emotional impact on me, and I think it did for a lot of people. It was very real. Some of it was kind of scary, but the overall message was I knew that we were not alone. And so as when internet finally came in, I started doing a lot of research with Richard Hoagland's stuff, Enterprise, Project Enterprise, and the anomalies on Mars, and the anomalies on the Moon, and other anomalies within our solar system. And then they were started showing images of like talking about alien bases on the Moon. And I thought that was absolutely preposterous, thinking there's actually alien bases on the Moon. How ridiculous is this? Until I started looking it up myself. And then when I went to on the internet on Facebook and typed in alien bases on the Moon, all of a sudden all these images that NASA had taken of towers and structures and airbrushed things out, and lots of airbrushed things out. And then I was having flashbacks to my childhood. And it was like, I've seen these pictures before. What is going on here? And then I realized that these airbrushed out pictures that they were showing on the Moon were the same airbrushed pictures that that were in this massive moon book that was in my doctor's office when I was 4 years old. So this is going back to 1976. And in my doctor's office, he had this huge book. It was a big picture book, and it had a picture of one of the astronauts on the Moon, in his space helmet and stuff. And I was always gravitated to this book, and I would go through it. And the book was about at least 1 inch thick, and at least 1/3 of the book was color pictures of the lunar landings and the astronauts on the Moon and doing all the kind of stuff. But then when you got deeper into the book, it was all black and white pictures that were taken from the satellite orbiters or higher up and stuff like that in different areas. And almost every page, everything they were showing had airbrushed things out. Everything was airbrushed out. There was even pictures that were like taking that the astronauts had taken of certain areas in the Moon, and things were airbrushed out. And I was like, what the heck is going on here? It didn't make any sense. Like, I'm a 4 or 5 year old kid. I'm not stupid. So I thought that, maybe if you it's like a scratch and sniff book, that if you scratch that area that's blurred out, that you'll see what they're hiding. And I do that, and nothing was happening. Then I thought, maybe if you hold it up to the light, you'll be able to see what's going on. And so I do that, and it's ridiculous. It's like there's no point. But they were definitely airbrushing things out in this book in the 70s. And because the technology wasn't so good back then, it was blatantly obvious that they're covering something up. And here it is, 30 years later, I see the same images. So, at this point, I still hadn't had any ET contact. But through all my research and learning and educating myself about the phenomenon, my friends' kids, they would call me the alien guy, and I was always getting presents that had an alien theme to it. And I was just kind of known as the alien guy. And I remember in the year 2000 going out in my backyard and just, looking up at the skies and just, calling on the grays saying, look, I'm here to help. I want to raise consciousness of the ET presence. I want to help. Please give me an opportunity. I'll do anything. And so at that point, that was my awakening of knowing what it is that I truly wanted to do, what I felt like was my mission. However, I would have to wait 14 years for that mission to begin. And then that's what takes me to August 21st of 2014. And so then August 21st, 2014, it's 10:30. I had just gotten my kids to bed. And then I step out. I live in Hamilton, Ontario. And I step out onto my porch. And I live in a very, it's a big subdivision. And it's just off of Upper James, which is one of the busiest streets in Hamilton. So within 7 seconds of me stepping onto my deck, there appears behind my neighbor's tree comes this object. This is within 7 seconds of stepping onto the deck. It was like it was waiting for me. This object comes out from behind the tree, and it's a disc. It's like this disc, it was very symmetrical, and it was orangish red, almost like it was like glowing like coals. And it was just moving across my backyard like this, just like that. Very slow. And I'm going, what the heck is that?
And you're not far from the airport.
No, actually I'm not. I'm only like 15 minutes away from the airport at that point.
Yeah, not even. Yeah,
not even. No. But this thing was like, it was orangish red and glowing like coals, but it also had like mist that was coming off the top of it and the bottom of it. It almost looked like spray mist. It was just like coming off the side and the bottom. It looked totally unearthly. But at first, when it appeared behind the tree, I honestly thought it was a meteor. I thought it was a huge meteor that was coming into the atmosphere. But then I realized that, wait, that's moving really slow. Wait a second, that's right over the neighborhood. It was like 125 feet off the ground.
And did anybody come out and see what this was?
No.
Wow.
No, nobody did.
Wow.
And the thing is, you have to remember, like this is a 10:30 at night. There's people walking their dogs, driving their cars. It's just right off the main freeway. It should have people should have been taking pictures of this thing and it should have been all over the news.
Right.
So it comes out from behind, and it was only maybe 100 yards away from me, and it was about 40 feet in diameter, maybe 20 feet high. Really close. Like it was really close. I probably could have thrown a rock to be able to hit it. And then it just moved across my backyard just like this, this object going like this. And then it just turned away and started going south towards Bimbrook, just like that. But then as it turned away, I realized that it no longer had a light source, and the object was completely black. Okay? But also I noticed that the ship, or this craft, was oblong. It was like a football, shaped like a football, like that.
Right.
And it was moving away. And then it seemed to have this kind of swirling white vortex kind of in the front of it, almost like an umbrella kind of thing. And it just was totally silent and just left. And then at that point, I didn't even know if it was a UFO. I didn't even think it was a UFO at that point. I didn't know what I was looking at. Because the other thing about this object was that it was two-dimensional. So it had height and depth. It had height and width, but it had no depth. It looked like a flat piece of paper. And that was the other thing that was totally confusing me. It was like, I'd never seen anything like that. This thing displayed physics that you can't even, it boggles your mind, And I realized 6 months later, I discovered that what I was actually seeing, the light, that orangish red, was actually a plasma stream. Okay, it was a plasma stream that was covering this craft, and that's why when it turned away, there was no light, because plasma only shows up on certain angles. You can't see plasma from behind because it's on the side.
Right.
So, but I learned that a little bit later on. So I was totally freaked out by this experience. I called MUFON, and I wrote up a full report on it. The MUFON is the Mutual UFO Network, and it would be almost a year before anything would happen after that. But I'll tell you, for the next 2 weeks, I was totally my life was upside down. Like, I was completely freaked right out. I didn't know what to think, and I kept trying to wrap my mind around thinking, was this like a military craft? Like, what was this thing?
Because you're so close to the airport, you're like, what?
Yeah, what was this thing?
Yeah.
What was this? Like, it didn't. And the physics I saw, I couldn't wrap my mind around it. I didn't know what I was looking at, and your mind just can't fathom it, because it doesn't fit into the box of what you know. I've never seen anything like that in a UFO movie, in a space space TV show. Nothing describes what I saw. So now this brings me to the year 2015, which is where my life would change completely and forever. So it was the summer of 2015, and there was a major announcement in the Hamilton Spectator of the first UFO conference in Ontario. And it was the Alien Cosmic Expo that was taking place in Brantford. And it was so big that it actually took 3 pages of the Hamilton Spectator. And then when I opened it up and was looking at the articles, and they talked about all the presenters, all the the researchers who were there, I immediately recognized Stanton Friedman, and Paul Hellyer, the the former defense minister. He was going to be there.
Right.
And then it was Grant Cameron. They were talking about Grant Cameron from Winnipeg, UFO Researcher of the Year 2013, 2014, talking about, and this is when the hairs on my arms just stood up. Extraterrestrials and musicians, and why extraterrestrials are contacting musicians to raise consciousness of the ET presence. And when I read that, I just totally freaked out, because it was just 2 years before that I released my first CD, Pyramids on Mars, which is instrumental music. And the whole idea of the idea behind Pyramids on Mars is to raise consciousness of the ET presence, because there are pyramids on Mars. And I was writing music in a very emotional way, communicating at a very, very deep level of myself, and we'll get into the significance of that and why that got the ET's interest. But everything else, this is actually was all predestined 250 years ago. Okay. And I'll get into that, the reason why that. That's pretty interesting.
Anything you want to talk about.
Because we got your channel right now, so take advantage.
Whatever you want.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, the reason I'm mentioning about 250 years is because when you asked me about, like, how, if my childhood I ever discover like anything special about my family. Yeah, I did discover something interesting about my family. Last year, I got to talk to the Ponte, and I asked them, about that craft in 2014. I said, was that your craft? And they finally said, yes, it was. However, we were not the first star nation to discover you. The Jalohu have been following your family for 250 years. Now, the Jalohu are Jalohu. It's XALOUCH or something like that.
Wow. Okay.
And they are a Zeta race, but they're they look like the Ponte, but they're more like 6 or 7 feet tall. And it was Newall I was speaking to, who was on the information desk that morning when I was speaking to the Ponte. And he said the Jalohu have been following your family lineage for 250 years. Now, the importance and significance of that is that my grandmother spent a decade studying our family tree and our family lineage on our side. And our family, we're actually descendants. We are direct descendants of General de Grasse, who was a French general who helped George Washington during the war. and he was very significant. In fact, actually, there's a book that my mother has, which is nothing but a collection of the letters between George Washington and General de Grasse and the responses back and forth to each other. It's a very, very thick book. So de Grasse was very significant in George Washington's success. So when I came back home from that trip last year, and I told my mother this because they know all my story, she had this look on her face, and then she pulled out her calculator and she did some work, and then she said, "Kevin, General de Grasse's most important year, most significant year was the year 1776. That's 3 years off of 250. So there you go. It was all another synchronicity. So then things started to make sense. So the Jala who have been following my family lineage for that long because of de Grasse. So that's quite something. Did you have somebody had a question?
No, I think it's great. I usually, I think depending on the significance of your family lines or what it is, not so much what you do, because I've got, really fascinating family lines as well. And I had found out something along the same lines of being, followed. How far back? Who knows? I've never been given an exact time. I have to assume because of the key players, I would understand why it would be, but I had to reach out to my mother as well. Unfortunately, I didn't have my grandparents even at the time to ask. And I think you become a little bit more comfortable with it because you realize, okay, that there's some sort of a connection. It's not just, you're not just a random drop in, you know.
And you're all safe.
Right.
You're all safe. Generation after generation. They didn't hurt anyone. That's evidence of that as well.
Yeah. So I'm just putting up comments. So similar to an Aztec name.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. Sorry, did you want to see that again there? I'm a little quick with that.
Yeah, that's the spelling.
Yeah, sometimes.
That's why I asked you. I've heard that before. So it must be that exactly what Kason Lee says.
Yeah, so they were following our family for that long. And so getting back to the Alien Cosmic Expo of meeting Grant Cameron, when I found out that he's been studying extraterrestrials and musicians, and that there's this major connection between extraterrestrials and musicians, I felt like that was the first synchronicity of my entire life, like really big one. I realized that I was being called to go and see him, that there was something bigger than myself that I needed to go and see him about because of this UFO experience that I had the year before. And now ETs are contacting me, and that it has a connection with music. Like this all felt like this sounds like a great storyline for plot for a movie, but it's my life. Right. So I was just, I didn't know what was going on. So I drive to Brantford feeling like one of Jesus' disciples, because I knew that there was something big that was going to happen when I got there, and I didn't know what it was. And then I was lucky to catch Grant just before he went on to do his presentation, and I handed him my CD, Pyramids of Mars. He looks down at it, he looks up at me, and he says, "We got to talk." I said, "Yeah, we do." And so then he goes up and he starts doing this presentation, talking about musicians and consciousness, and how musicians seem to tap into this consciousness of being able to write music that comes out of the ether, basically, where they don't even make any effort, and these songs just come to them in dreams or whatever. Like songs were just appearing to people, and it was like there was no conscious effort to these songs that musicians were writing, and it was like they're tapping into this higher consciousness. And then he started talking about how many musicians are actually experiencers, and they were talking like dozens and dozens and dozens. Everybody from Elvis to John Lennon to Ace Frehley of Kiss.
Sammy Hagar's got great
Sammy
stories.
Hagar, absolutely, yeah. All the members of Kiss, Britney Spears, David Bowie, Jimi Hendrix, like pretty much everybody have had an ET experience.
That's why their music seems so out there.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, but it's like why musicians? Because Grant did a study trying to find out how many golf players are experiencers. The answer is 0.
Alice Cooper.
Okay, yeah, but he's but
Alice Cooper.
Yeah.
Do you think it has to do because you're more in tune with frequency and vibration, which is technically what makes the whole universe go round?
Yeah, I think it's because their musicians are attached to a creative consciousness. The creative consciousness. They're more, which ties into telepathy. It's all about telepathy and connecting to connecting to the collective consciousness. And that was something that I didn't learn about until around the 2018, because the Ponte started talking about the edge of the black. And I was like, what's the edge of the black? And here's the thing. What the Ponte explained was the exact same thing as what Grant Cameron was explaining, but it was from the extraterrestrial perspective. So as Grant was saying, it's like these, musicians are tapping into this frequency, this consciousness, and the music is just coming to them in dreams, and they don't even know where the music's coming from, and the music just seems to write itself, And he talked about Chris Bledsoe, who's a very famous experiencer.
Yes.
Who talked about the importance of the song "Kashmir" by Led Zeppelin. And when they wrote that song, Robert Plant didn't even know what he was writing. And if you read the lyrics of that song, it sounds like an extraterrestrial talking.
I know, but they think it's all psychedelics. People listen to them. Oh, there's just psychedelics. No.
Because Chris Bledsoe was told by the Guardians, the message is in the music. That's what the Guardians told Chris Bledsoe. And Grant Cameron had no interest in looking at musicians, the connection between musicians and extraterrestrials, until he said it's also in the song After the Gold Rush by Neil Young. And then Grant Cameron's ears piped up, what? After the Gold Rush? Neil Young? He's from Winnipeg. He's from my town. There's something into this. I better start looking into this. And that's because of that was the significance as to why Grant started looking at this stuff. Because as he says, he's not a musician. He's a musical idiot. He knows nothing about music. Doesn't get it.
Right.
But he started doing all this research. There's a book that came out before Grant Cameron's book. Grant Cameron wrote a book called Tuned In: The Paranormal World of Music, where he talks about musicians and mentions all the musicians I mentioned, and talks a lot about different stories from these musicians of the experiences they had. I mean, you should read the story they talk about Elvis. I mean, there was a blue light that apparently was over Elvis's house when he was born, and they think that Elvis was actually a Pleiadian ambassador. But there was a book before.
Well, he's been called a lot of things.
He's left the building, so who knows where he's gone.
He's been called a lot of things.
Yeah, I know.
A Fed, an agent, a spy.
Oh, okay.
Wow, fits in.
Well, yeah. But the other book, there's another book that was written that was that got Grant inspired about this. It's called Alien Rock by Michael C. Luckman. So that book was the initial one that talked about most of these musicians and their ET contact. So Grant just expanded on that book and then wrote his book. And actually, I'm in that book. His book, the paranormal, Tuned In: The Paranormal World of Music. And we talk about one of my songs that was that I didn't write, that came from this collective consciousness, a song called Dream Division. And basically, how this song came together was I was having a dream where I was watching MTV. For people who remember MTV,
I do.
Okay, shows you my age. MTV.
Yeah.
And it was a guy who was interviewing Joe Satriani, a very famous instrumental guitarist, big influence on me. And he was sitting at a console, and he says, "Yeah, I heard you're working on this new album. Is there anything that you can play for us?" He's like, "Oh yeah, we cut a couple bed tracks that we've cut." And then he starts playing this song through the monitors, and I'm listening to it, and I was thinking, this is actually really cool. This is a really cool intro. Wait a second. Joe never wrote this song. I never heard this song before in my life. I wake up, I go down to the studio, and I start tracking out this song that I saw and heard in this dream. like I didn't write this song. There was
Right.
no effort at all in this song. It's like turning on the TV and watching a TV, watching MTV, and then they say, "Oh, this song doesn't exist. It's yours. It's free." So it's like, how do you explain that?
Yes.
So, but the Ponte did explain it.
Yes.
And this is what they explained. They called it the edge of the black. And it's my one of my teachers, Tani, and she says, this is her famous phrase. She says, "Go to the edge of the black of the universe, where nothingness and everything exists." So basically, going right to the edge of the universe, where you just there's nothing, there's black space, and then you turn around and you're facing the entire everything. And they say, turn around and listen for the next song that's sung to you. So what they're saying is, by connecting to the collective consciousness, you become a co-creator with the collective consciousness. And then it's like you're spinning, you're weaving the songs with your emotion and your feelings and everything from you with the consciousness of the collective of other beings who want to participate in the songwriting process. So you become one with the universe, and then you just let go. So basically, the songs will write themselves. You just have to get out of the way, because you will connect with the universe. And that was ET's explanation of creativity.
And it makes sense, because the universe is frequency and vibration, and it is how you can tap into it and communicate.
Exactly. And
so
it's not
essentially
just
it's putting it out. No, exactly. But the musician knows how to interpret it.
Yeah, but also
like how to receive it, right?
Yep. And but also but script writers, people who are writing movies, are authors who are writing books.
Artistic people, essentially.
Artistic people.
They think differently.
They think differently, and when they get into that alpha theta state, they're unknowingly, they're tapping into the collective consciousness.
Right.
And I found out, do you guys know the movie Paul?
Yeah, of course.
The best ever.
Who doesn't know the movie Paul?
Okay.
Well, if you don't, you shouldn't be listening to the show. That's
yeah. So Paul's basically
just so funny.
Paul is a great movie. It's about this Zeta, kind of like a Zeta guy, the alien who crash lands on Earth, and he's held in a U.S. military base for many years, and then he escapes, and then these two guys from who are going to this Comic-Con end up discovering him on the side of the highway, and it's this whole thing that goes on. Well, the thing is that, and there's many people have already said it, that Paul, his personality, is uncanny and almost exactly like my Zeta buddy Radar. Radar, who's one of the Ponte, does crazy stuff, and his personality is very much like Paul.
Well, now I want him.
Well,
who doesn't want a buddy like that?
He's amazing.
What you wish for.
He's funny. He's funny as hell. He gets himself into a lot of trouble. We've given him the nickname Brinkman, which is short for brinkmanship,
right? Because
he's constantly doing things that are on the edge of acceptability. I can't tell you how many times he'll fly his UFO skipper ship too fast into the Sandia base and get dings and bumps on it, and scratches, and then Dell their
you got a Tom Cruise Top Gun Buzz in the Tower thing going on there. It sounds like
pretty much
a little bit of havoc.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Radar does stuff like that. He has been known to, like he's been chased by military, craft like aircraft, and he'll just kind of circle around them, and tease them. He gets off on this kind of stuff. He loves speed. He does a lot of crazy stuff. And sometimes he gets himself into trouble. But very much he has like they say that, the Pontes say that the personality of Paul is very much like Radar.
Right.
So a couple of years ago, we were doing a live show, and we were wondering if Radar had influenced the author of who wrote Paul, if he had influenced him telepathically when he was writing that book. And Radar's response was, what happens if I say yes? Will I get in trouble?
It's
Will I,
kind of
like, how do I
baby.
answer this question?
Right.
And I realized that I was on the topic of something that was going to get him into big trouble,
Right.
because I think he did have an influence on it, but he was already on probation at that point.
Right.
The reason he was on probation was because he had taken one of the Twitter followers for a joyride, and he allowed the Twitter follower to fly the craft for a bit, which is a no-no.
Oh, is it that? But isn't that normal with some ET
With
races that they will allow people to
yes,
have tours and drive for a little bit?
yes, they do. But with
Tours
this,
of what?
well, with this situation, this human being did not have the authorization to do that,
Got it.
and he went onto Twitter and actually posted it publicly, saying, "Hey, Radar, what about that? Tell me about last night when you let me fly the ship." And Radar happened to be on the desk at that point, and he's like, "Oh, dude, don't! I can't believe you just said that on Twitter." And then the next tweet was, "I'm being called down to the office."
Oh,
And he had to meet
boy.
with Tilcom, and he was put on major probation. He got really in big trouble. And now all the activity on board his skippership Delta Dawn is monitored, tracked, and under surveillance. So yeah, that kind of stuff can happen to ETs too.
Well, I would think so. There has to be some kind of, like, not hierarchy, but there has to be something. It
There
can't.
has to be.
Everybody has to answer to someone.
There's
there
always
has to
a
be discipline.
boss. There's always a boss. So before we get too far ahead, I just want to put up a couple of comments.
Sure.
This one here.
Hi, Wayne.
Getting back
Wayne
to music.
My musician friend told me in confidence, you blew it, Wayne. I'm just kidding. That when he was very little, he thought that everyone could see the music in colors like he did, that it was another language.
All into itself.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually,
That's fascinating.
Yeah. Music is definitely a language. And one of the things, and the other thing that he mentioned about color, and that's interesting that he says that, because the Ponte have a telepathy primer if you want to learn telepathy. It's on the website that we have going here, officialfirstcontact.com. You see it going across the bottom. If you want to learn telepathy, go to that website and download the free Telepathy 101 primer. It's available in about 19 languages. And if you practice half an hour a day for 100 days, you will have contact. But one of the protocols that they talk about in the telepathy primer is knowing your learning style, your communication style. Some people are more audio. Some people are more visual. Some people are more kinesthetic, like touching and temperature and stuff like that. And some are like, but a lot of us are a mixture of both. So
mediums can react through color just in their sight, from their mind's eye. Color is very prominent.
Sure, yeah.
And Vegas does not like it.
So that would be a thing, right?
Yeah.
Yep. And so it's knowing yourself and knowing your communication style, because all of these things are communicated in telepathy. Telepathy is not just hearing stuff. Sometimes, telepathy is somebody will send you an image, pictures in your mind, with emotions attached to it as well, because telepathy is all connected to emotions. So when he said about seeing colors, obviously that his friend was more of a visual person, so he was actually able to see music in colors, which I think is really amazing.
Yeah. Yes, it is. It is for sure. I think people are gifted in many different ways. And I do believe and here's another comment, and I do believe in this comment because I think we can heal ourselves with frequencies.
Wayne says, it's said that the angels sing in order to heal people. It's not the words, but the frequencies that do the healing. It makes sense, because when you go to physio, they have the ultrasound kind of frequency for pain.
Yeah.
So it does. I mean, hearing the angels sing, that's just a beautiful.
Well, there's also there's also the frequencies of music,
Yeah.
and playing music in the proper frequency,
Yeah.
because standard music today is recorded at 440 hertz, which is the note A is 440 hertz, which became the musical standard back in 1926. That is a artificial frequency. That number has nothing to do with nature. The actual real frequency that music should be tuned to is 432 hertz.
That's right.
Because that falls into the golden ratio Fibonacci code.
The powers that be change that, right?
It's a number of God. It's a number of God. I mean, when you start looking into how crazy it is, the sun's diameter is actually a ratio of 432. The Saturn's spin around the sun is 432 times 2. Tiger Woods' effing golf ball has how many dimples on it?
432.
Well, it's not just his golf ball.
No, but I'm just saying, like
Everybody's
his golf ball is branded. There's it's even branded called 432.
The bells, all the cathedrals and the churches, they're taking them all away. And I have a video that I keep forgetting to post of them excavating this enormous bell because of the frequencies and how it heals people, and how they started taking them down because they figured that out.
Yeah.
I remember it makes money, and I won't say who makes money, but it makes money if we're sick.
Yeah. Business.
WFP code. They changed it to put us out of tune with the earth.
That's exactly right. So. They did.
Yeah.
With a lot of things, for sure.
They poisoned our music by the frequency.
And if you're sensitive, you can really pick up on that. There's a lot of music that I can't listen to. And I used to play piano and flute. And so there's stuff that you can't listen to because it just literally, you're so in tune to it, it's off.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that? Yeah. I think most people in music
440 just does not, it doesn't resonate with me. I know it's not natural.
No.
I tuned all my music 432 years ago. Somebody mentioned about can Gregorian chants heal?
I listen to it a lot.
Those are the best.
Yeah.
That's an interesting thing. I wonder, Gregorian chants music physically healed the body. I'd like to know about that too. I wonder, but I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised. A lot of this stuff has been banned by the church for reasons.
Well, the Gregorian chants, they kept them because they use them for a meditation to God. They see it a little bit differently. I think it depends what church.
Yeah. The other thing I was gonna mention about frequency, another important frequency is actually 528 hertz solfeggio frequency, which is a DNA healing frequency. So the reason I'm bringing this up, I can't make this shit up. So most of my music is 432, right? But when I was writing my album, The Edge of the Black, which
I love that name.
the Ponzi gave me the name of that album, The Edge of the Black.
I love that name.
Yeah. That's that's all about going to the edge of black and co-writing with the universe, and that's what I was learning to do during that album.
Beautiful. Yeah.
But what happened during that album was one of my guitars is I have a Les Paul Studio Gothic, and it's D tuned, so the E string is tuned down to a D, which is like Tool. The band Tool tunes their guitar like that, and I'm a huge Tool fan. But then I had that guitar, all the strings tuned down a whole step, which made it low C, and that was a playing that I did a lot of writing in that tuning with my old band Shatter Instinct. So there's one day I went to pick up that guitar, and it just sounded so rich and so deep, and it just sounded great. I didn't know what was different about it, and I'm playing the guitar, and then I hit the record button, and I end up writing a whole bunch of songs that just came instantaneously. Songs written in one take, just like boom, the entire song was written in one take. 3 or 4 songs on Edge of the Black were written on that guitar in these tunings. I didn't even know my guitar had been retuned.
Right.
I'll get to that story in a second. But the thing was, is that the writing process of this album was that all the songs were written in one take. No edits. No edits. I just picked up the guitar, plugged in, the song wrote itself. The entire structure wrote itself. It was talking. It was saying something. And that was why the theme of the album was called Edge of the Black. All the music was written. I didn't write it. It just came.
Right.
However, the important thing was that after I recorded the first song, I was thinking there's something odd about this, about the way the guitar sounds. And so then I got my guitar tuner and I checked out my tuning. And instead of the low, C, being the low string being the low C, it was more like a low A sharp and a half. It was 2 whole steps lower, but it was not the frequency. It wasn't in 432. But the whole guitar, it wasn't like it was knocked out of tune. It was retuned. It was purposely, the whole guitar was retuned down a step, like a whole step lower than it was in a baritone setting. And I'm like, who the heck retuned my guitar? I live here on my own.
Right.
But there was a frequency thing that was going on here. So I had to get a frequency tone generator in order to tune check out what the frequency was that guitar was tuned to. And you're not going to believe what it was.
432. No.
No, like my guitar was already tuned to 432.
Right.
528.
That's interesting.
528 solfeggio.
528 solfeggio. Wow.
Yeah, the healing frequency.
The healing frequency.
Right.
And so then I went onto Twitter and I said, guys, somebody retuned my guitar. Do you know anything about it? And the only thing that came up was this portrait of Grayson, who was one of my other good extraterrestrial Ponty buddies. You can't see his portrait, but it's up here, and it's just a portrait of him going like this with his fingers just looking straight like that. And that was the only thing. It was Grayson who came in here when I was sleeping, and he retuned my guitar. So half of this album, Edge of the Black, is actually written in a real alien tuning.
Right.
But the other thing about it was that it's not just the frequency. He tuned my guitar to a baritone setting. A baritone setting. So it was like there are baritone guitars. So the baritone guitars are a much lower frequency.
Right.
And so then, I'm going to read something for you. This is hilarious. I was interviewing Sue Walker, who's the telepath for the Ponty. And in the middle of the interview, Grayson interrupted to talk about the new tunings. And this is what he wrote. Hang on a second, I can find it. Oh, where are you? Come on. Just give me 1 second here.
So we're just going to read off.
Oh, here we go. Got it.
Okay.
Okay, I got it. Okay, so I'm interviewing Sue, and then Grayson, who retuned my guitar, and I was still in the process of writing, some of the music for this album. He comes on the radio, and then Sue's translating for him, and he says, first of all, he said, Kevin, you play to the soup. You play, to the ripple through the collective consciousness proactively. What he's telling me is I play at a telepathic level. That's what my music plays at. I didn't even get into that part of the discussion because there's so much I covered. Teeny had been teaching me to play at a telepathic level since 2016. So all my albums, and she explained that my first album, when I said, the one I gave Grant Cameron, that the interest with that one is that all my albums I play at a telepathic level, but I just wasn't consciously aware of it. Tini took me under her wing to teach me how to play at a telepathic level, which is a very emotional state of your highest being. And so when Grayson came on here, he wanted to emphasize a little bit more about that and elaborate.
Mm-hmm.
So he says, Kevin, you play to the soup. And what the soup is, that's the collective consciousness. We're all connected. We're all part of the soup. He says, to the ripple through the collective consciousness proactively, you design your music to do that. That's rare.
Mm-hmm.
Then he went on to say, is the retuning making sense? And allowing greater nuances in your music writing. Emphasize the harmonics and use the low E string as the apostrophe. Emphasize the harmonic tones in the chords, and then the deeper notes become the exclamation mark, the apostrophe, the eureka, the pinnacle. He said the crescendo of a piece and bringing it into full circle. And then Sue said he's liking it to writing a play script. Now Grayson, he's a huge fan of Shakespeare. Okay, so he was thinking of in Shakespeare in Shakespeare ways. He says your music is telling a story. You start and you are starting and ending with the apostrophe at the beginning, captures the attention of the audience and makes them sit up and listen and go, what was that? And the apostrophe at the end solidifies the ripple through the soup, the collective consciousness. That's what he said live on my radio show.
Right. I think it's fantastic. It's deep.
It's very deep.
I
couldn't make that. I couldn't make that up. Sue didn't make that up.
Yeah.
That was Grayson. Grayson came right on and he gave that explanation on how to play my new retuned guitar and how to think of it differently.
Right. Right.
So
can he tune my piano?
They're definitely
piano? I know it takes
they're definitely very hands-on, without a doubt. Like you have this incredible relationship with them. Has that led you to having contact and relationships with other races as well?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
If you look up above here, can you see that portrait? That portrait up there?
Yes.
That one.
Right.
I'm not gonna. I can't move my camera because I'll get knocked out.
Yeah, don't do that. Right.
Yeah. But if you look at that, that portrait is actually I might be able to pull it up on my phone. This is an extraterrestrial who visited me a couple years ago, and here in my condo, and we found out that she is Arcturian. She's an Arcturian hybrid. And she called herself Flaley. So she looks, this is where art, imitates life. She looks like the Na'vi from Avatar.
Right.
Those extraterrestrials. The blue skin, the amber eyes, but she didn't have any hair. Her head was just like slightly larger. And she appeared in a lucid dream state, but it was not a dream because she paralyzed me and I was choking on the back of my tongue in this lucid dream state. Basically, when I dropped into this lower consciousness, it was like I was lying in bed like if I was awake, but I was not. I was sleeping. I was in that state between, actually it was a lucid dream state. And so then she's crawling. I didn't see her at first. There was somebody who was crawling under the bed sheets and moving their way up through the bed sheets. Okay, so here we go. I'm gonna hold that up to the camera.
Yep, I see her.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what she looks like.
The eyes are interesting to me.
Yeah.
Would she by chance be?
She's got cat eyes.
Okay.
Not reptilian. Those are cat eyes.
Okay.
So there's somebody crawling under the bed and then jumps up from the bed sheets with this surprise it's me look on her face, and it was her. And I was just like totally blown away. Like
That can't be good for your dating life.
Well, I would like to date her. I would definitely
No.
want to date her.
It's getting heavy for me. I'm always the one that throws in the lighter stuff. Okay. Wow. Yeah, she's beautiful.
yeah, so she shows up, and she said, like, I got from her thoughts that her name was Flaley. Um, and when she appeared, her eyes, like, were in the dark, right? But her eyes were like, they were bioluminescence. They were slightly glowing in the dark. I've
Mm-hmm.
never seen anybody with glowing eyes, and
Mm-hmm.
they were beautiful. They're like cat eyes, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And both of us, what we did was we rested our cheeks against each other. So my cheek was resting against her cheek, and I could feel the softness of her cheek and her skin. And then I was touching the back of her head, and as I was touching, her, she was mirroring me and doing the exact same thing that I was to her. So I touched the back of her head. She was touching the back of my head. I could feel that the back of her head went to a point, like you can see, like almost like a football.
Yes. Right.
And then I was touching her arms, and I could feel that she had very coarse hairs on her arms,
Mm.
almost more coarse than like a beard. It was interesting. It
Oh.
was, yeah, but
Well,
her
maybe they're
skin,
for
her,
feeling.
her skin was cool to the touch. And then she
Mm.
sits back, and I'm looking at her, and I said, "How did you find me? Was it did I call out to you, and you came to me?" And then she just laughs, and it was like this girly laugh, like a 20-something-year-old, just and and then I got this telepathic side thought from her that was, "Do you think all of your visits are initiated by always you?" And I was like, "Huh?" I didn't understand what she meant by that.
Right.
And then she turns her attention to my night table, and I had on my night table in this dream was a watch. And she's like, "Oh, is that a watch? Can I see it?" And then she reaches over and she grabs this watch, and then she puts it on her wrist, and then she's playing with the knobs and stuff like that, and she's just fascinated with this watch, this old, ancient technology. And I realized that, like, the watch wasn't actually on my desk, in the real world.
Right.
It was from my memories, because it was a watch that I had 10 years ago that broke. So somehow she telepathically went into my memories and saw something that was of interest to her, which was that watch. And so
Mhm.
then she's playing with it, and then I said, "Yeah, you can keep it." And so, and then after I woke up, it's like, that the watch wasn't really there. But the
Right.
other thing was that I don't think her name was Flaley. That was another. It's like she went into my mind to find a memory of mine that to find a name that suited her,
Mhm.
because Flaley is the name of. There's a book called Watership Down about
Yes.
rabbits, and one of the main characters in that book, his name is Bigwig, if you watch the movie, but his real name is Flaley. His
Mhm.
nickname is Bigwig. His real name is Flaley, but you would only know that if you watched that movie or read the book. So I think she went into my memories and found a name that suited her, but she never
That's
even
so
said.
random, though. Like, it's just so obscure to
It is
pull out
obscure. It's totally
something out of something
obscure.
you've read or watched.
Yeah, so they can, because
Yeah.
telepathy is so deep, they can go deep
Yes.
into your memories
Mhm.
and pull things out that are there from, like, your whole entire life.
Mhm.
And that's why, us as humans, we need to learn and develop our telepathy, because if we're going to communicate with extraterrestrial nations, we want them to be as honest as we would like them to be as honest to them.
I think you'd have to work on overcoming fears before anything else,
You have to,
because
yeah,
of the conditioning, because of the constant barrage of fear mongering, but by governments and powers that be. I don't think, if this is going on, it's going on in the background on a need to know basis. Like, I don't think it's being encouraged. We within the community, we know that, yes, that it's okay to do this. But I think in mainstream everything, they are projecting a really big degree of fear. Heck,
yeah,
just think about most of the movies that are out there. You do get some, like, like Contact and Communion. Contact was a little bit more lighthearted. There's very few movies like that. But when it comes to I mean, heck, even the day the Earth stood still, a cloud too. It's just like from very early on, we were conditioned to fear this sort of contact. So, how do you recommend, overcoming fear and then maybe working on these abilities? Do you think you can do it first and they still have,
Well, I would not have any of my extraterrestrial contact if I had the emotion of fear.
Exactly.
So that's the first thing that I had to learn at an early on when the Ponte talked about contact, because they have a protocol that they follow,
right,
in order to be able to make contact with any Earth Terran, which is what they call us, Tiwa, or water people, humans. There's 3 rules that they have to follow at any visit: cause no fear, do no harm, leave no trace. So if you have fear in your heart, they can't make contact with you because it's going to break their protocols. Also, any contact with an extraterrestrial, their abilities, their consciousness abilities are so more advanced than ours. Their spiritual levels are so much more advanced than ours that they're trying to come down to our level, but we also need to kind of move up to their level, because to kind of meet somewhere in the middle. But you need to get over your fears if you want to have contact with them. And that's why, the telepathy primer, as I said, is a great way to start learning your telepathy, developing your own telepathic abilities, and getting over your fears and learning how to, open yourself up to communicating with your mind to who's out there, all our star brothers and star sisters. And your contact may be as simple as you going outside and you're seeing a star that seems to be moving across the sky. And then you say to it, like, blink, blink. And then it goes back at you. And all of a sudden, your life has just changed.
I've had that. It's a simple thing, but it's awesome. It's very exciting.
We have a lot of Twitter followers who videotape that. It's on the website of them doing that, and the Ponte blinking back at them. So that is.
How do you get around, the scary looking dudes like the reptilians and the mantis and,
Well, to me, they're
looks
not.
Can be deceiving, right?
To me, they're not scary at all.
Okay. But most people might think opposite.
Well, that's because they're Earth human. They need to get over their fears. My first extraterrestrial visitation was from a reptilian. You want to see what she looks like?
Yep. Absolutely.
Are you sure?
Yes.
You're scary.
Yes.
I'm just joking. Well, I don't know. Maybe
growly though. I'll tell you that.
Maybe she is scary to people. I don't know.
I'm the scared one, not Michelle.
But she was the very first extraterrestrial to visit me, and once again, it happened in a lucid dream state. But I was in my apartment, and I was like halfway asleep, and all of a sudden I could hear somebody coming up the stairs into my loft, and then I wake up and the sound was gone, and I knew that there was somebody in my bedroom. And then the next time I was halfway asleep, and then I could hear somebody crawled up the stairs to my loft, and then I could hear the my duvet being ruffled around. Shoot, hang on a second, I went too far. And then I woke up, and then the sound went away. And then I realized
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at Kat. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
and then I realized that there was somebody who was in the room who wanted to meet with me. And so then that time I allowed myself to start falling asleep. And then I heard my bed sheets being ruffled around. And then I was knocked into this, knocked unconscious into this lucid dream state. And in this lucid dream state, I'm lying on my side, and it was like being awake. Basically, I'm just lying there in bed. And then there was somebody who was in the bed behind me who was kind of settling in, and I couldn't see who they were yet, and I had no fear whatsoever. And then then they turn around, they grab my shoulder, push me down on the bed, so I'm like I got both my shoulders, and then she sits on top of me, and this is who was sitting on top of me.
I can't see. Oh, okay. Okay, so very like Klingon sort of. Just taking control. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So,
Interesting. Yeah.
yeah. And she had her scales, like very small scales. They were light green. And then she had almost like bluish green scales that went across where her ears were, down her neck.
She almost looks a bit hybrid.
Yeah, I think she is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we think that she's actually sauroid, which is they're reptilian, but they're native to Earth.
Right.
Okay, they live
Yes.
underground.
Yes.
So have you heard of the Lacerda interviews?
No. Well, I might have to listen to them, just not.
Yeah, the Lacerda interview
time.
is very fascinating. It's an interview with a reptilian female.
Yes, yes. I've heard.
Yeah, definitely check that out. I believe that is a real interview.
Mm-hmm.
So this reptilian, she had amber eyes. They were like reptilian eyes. She had kind of a small snout, and then she had a slit for her mouth, and then her head was bulbous like this, looking like like almost like a clove of garlic.
Mm-hmm.
And then she had this blue. It was a blue mohawk that was hanging down over her head, like really punk-like.
Right. Yes.
I wonder if sometimes they can change their appearance and appear to you in a way that makes you comfortable.
That's projecting an image.
Right? Yeah.
That is possible too. It's the same thing like possibly, Flaley. She may not look exactly like her picture. She may have something slightly different with her face that might be a little bit more, scary. I don't know. Maybe she has sharp teeth. I don't know. I didn't see it when
that's what I'm saying. I wonder if they,
Well, you're going to have individual looks from any race. We're all different.
Yeah, we're all different. We have to get used to the fact that there are multiple different nations out there who are going to look different than us, and we have to get over. We have to get over those differences. It's like you can't look at a reptilian or look at an alpha draconian and say, oh, he looks like a demon. He's a demon then.
No, but you know what? I think through religious conditioning or religious descriptions of demons, I think a ufologist or an experiencer would look at a reptilian or an alpha draconian and go, you're an alpha draconian or you're a reptilian. Whereas a religious person might say, that's a demon.
Yes.
Because because the image. So maybe it's just a translation thing.
Yeah.
Through our belief systems throughout the planet,
For mediums, when you're looking if you're working in the dark side of things, they will mimic anything that gives you the most fear. That's why I'm asking, is it the opposite where they create, this visual for you that is pleasing and comfortable for you to be able to communicate with them?
Well, it's really hard to say. I mean, the way they appeared looking to me, I did not find offensive. I didn't find offensive at all.
That's what I mean. Like they're doing it for you. I'm saying in the dark side, they'll do it for the opposite reason. The more the fear they can instill. And I wonder with aliens, with extraterrestrials, with other beings, if they change the way they look or appear to us so that we're not as afraid for those of us like first time or out of kindness, not out of deception.
Yeah, they do that. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Not out of deception, out of kindness and to make it more comfortable.
Yeah, that's why a lot of people who have had contact with greys, sometimes the greys will appear as a 3-foot rabbits, standing next to their bed, or owls. A lot of owls.
Yeah. A lot of owls, and I know the owls is a big one.
What about odors?
Yeah,
what kind of odors are familiar? So this for people who are maybe having experiences, sometimes report getting odors before they'll actually get a visual.
I've never had that. I've never had any odors.
Interesting.
I know another friend of mine, Jeff Demers, who's had visits with the Ponte. He's talked about the smell of like ripe banana, or kind of like what did you describe it as? Like almost like banana mixed with caramel.
Oh, that sounds like a great ice cream.
I was just gonna say that's Bananas Foster
Oh,
dessert.
yeah,
Yeah.
at least that's pleasant, because some people will say, no, it smells like sulfur, which is something else in the paranormal that
That's paranormal.
represents
Yeah.
something more malevolent. Like there seems to be a crossover between the two, and then smells of like, it's always something all kind of mechanical.
I've never had that experience.
Interesting. Wow, that's really very, very interesting when you say that. It's just stuff that gets put out there. I mean, some of it's documented stuff, so that's why I was putting it towards to you, because you seem to have had visits
Curiosity.
with different beings.
I've actually not had any experiences with odors.
Okay.
But it's funny you mentioned that. But I do know, I have a lot of friends who have had Sasquatch encounters, and Sasquatch have a very pungent odor, which smells like wet dog mixed with poo.
Yeah,
that's what I heard.
Yeah,
wet dog mixed with poo is what a Sasquatch smells like.
Well, they're in hot places, and it's humid in the forest.
Yeah, they don't always bath either.
No.
I got a funny story I could tell you about Radar and the Sasquatch.
Sure.
So Radar, his best friend is a teenage Sasquatch by the name of Kie, and there's a Sasquatch clan that lives in the Valles Caldera in New Mexico, which is about a 45-minute drive from Sandia Mountain. And Radar likes to hang out with Kie. And there was one night where Commander Tilcomb was not at the information station. He was on the moon base attending meetings. And so Radar thought, well, if the cat's away, the mice will play.
Of course.
And so he invited Kie. He got a larger skipper ship, and he said, hey, why don't you get some of your buddies, and we'll have a movie night in the observation deck. And so he picks up his Sasquatch friends. And this is during a summer, part of the summer where it was like kind of a drought season. So the Sasquatch were fairly pungent. So he picked up the Sasquatch and he brings him back to the information station, and they all go into this. It's like a movie room basically in the observation desk higher in the part of the mountain, and so they were watching a movie, having popcorn, and making a real ruckus. If you could imagine, Sasquatch. They can make a lot of noise, especially like say if they're watching Star Wars, and then Chewbacca shows up on the screen. They'll all go crazy for that. I've heard about that, but anyway, so word got out. somebody snitched on Radar, and so somebody ran down to the room, opened the door, and the floor is just covered in popcorn, and the smell in the room of the Sasquatch. That poor Ponty, his eyes were just watering. And he goes to Radar, Tilcomb knows. And so Radar had to clear them all out and take them back home, and he got major crap when Tilcomb got back. So that's a true story.
That is funny. That is funny. Oh my gosh. So what do you got to do to get that kind of a gig? You pull off a CE5. So let's talk about CE5s. A lot of people, I mean, I think you have researchers and such that are 50-50 with it because of the fact that they're saying, well, you don't really know what you're going to get. Could be friendly, may not be friendly.
Yeah.
So what is your advice on CE5? Because I mean, realistically, there's some people who make a whole process out of this. I've in my own experience, probably because I've had experiences as a child and I've already had that connection, I've never had to do anything like that. I've been able to just do it with a thought telepathically and just say, okay, and have had several experiences. So what is your advice on CE5? Yay or nay? And what's the best way?
Well, actually, it's yay. It is yay.
Okay.
I actually have something that will answer that question even more. Give me this 30 seconds. I'll be right back to show you, okay?
It's no problem. We're going to do a station ID while you're doing
That's
that.
a good idea.
Okay,
Yeah.
because I got something that talks about this subject. Okay, perfect. I'll be right
Okay.
back.
Yeah, no
Well, I'm going to
problem.
mute you for a minute and we're going to go. All right.
I'm gonna need a sip of water because salty dinner. I keep doing that on show night, and then it's like, okay.
Right. We're just going to pop them out for a quick minute. So let's go.
Sure, no problem. You are listening to The Outer Realm with Michelle Desrochers and Amelia Pisano, coming to you live from the beautiful city of New Orleans on 107.7 FM radio, as well as the Gulf Coast on 105.3 FM radio. We're live on Roku TV, Rumble, YouTube, sometimes X, and Facebook group pages. Listen to us on Alexa Prime and approximately 250 streaming platforms. You heard me. And if you haven't, you will. You'll hear us all. Just check out those platforms. Our guest tonight, returning guest, because the first time was a tech disaster and he's too interesting not to bring back, is Kevin Estrella, and everything, knock on wood, is going so smooth so far. So let's just keep that going. And if you're just tuning in, don't worry, because we have all of our episodes on archives, okay, on SoundCloud, and we post them on our Facebook page as well. So the moment of gratitude goes firstly to Folgers Coffee from our first episode with UPRN. We thank you for your continued support with sponsoring our show. We absolutely love Folgers Coffee. Our fabulous banner and promo media is courtesy of Steve McGinnis. He's a horror illustrator and an artist. Steve also creates custom commission pieces, and you can find him on Facebook. Thank you, Steve. Our intro and outro is courtesy of Dr. Snick, the sonic surgeon, aka Justin Snicker, award-winning composer, vocalist, and musician. You can find his music on Amazon and Bandcamp and stream on any platform. Find Dr. Snick on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you, Justin. Lastly, are you watching this episode right now, or are you listening to it? Because it doesn't matter. You can hit subscribe, like, and follow, whether you're on UPRN's channel on SoundCloud, Spotify, whichever it is, or if you're looking for us, simply look up YouTube and it'll say Michelle Desrochers, The Outer Realm, and please smash that subscribe button, smash the like button, and share us with your friends and family. Help us grow on social media. We are big and strong in audio, and we're trying to grow on all of these other platforms so we can maybe bring you some more show and tell. But we need your help to do that, right? Because you can't watch what you can't see. So make sure that you're hitting like on all of them, and all of our group pages, our Outer Realm Facebook group page, especially, where we share, I can't even talk today. We share information, and we share our information about our guests. We share the promos, our links, but we also share things that Michelle and I are reading or have just happened in the news of, high strangeness and history. So it's really interesting. It's fun. Come by, say hello, give us a like on Facebook, and we always respond.
And don't forget Rumble, because some of the shows that we cannot have here on YouTube do end up on Rumble.
I did say Rumble in the beginning. Yeah.
So just definitely go. We've just started with that, and it's definitely picking up. We have a lot of there's a lot of views. So obviously we're doing something right. But our censored stuff, censored here, is definitely there. So you can go and check it out and so on. So yeah, less censorship for now. Right now, they're trying to go after them the same way they're trying to go after another certain popular platform. So, go check it out for sure. Anyway, thank you. So, Kevin, are you ready to come back on? We good? Yeah, just nod. Yeah, okay, good. We're good. There we go. All right. We're back.
We are back.
Yes.
And we were talking about CE5s, yay or nay?
Yes.
Okay. And the answer is yay. CE5s are a way of being able to initiate contact with star nations. And I've done a couple CE5s. Some of them had some activity. We did one last year in Sue's backyard after our radio show, and we ended up seeing one of the clouds that was in our vicinity. Sue saw some strangeness going on with that cloud, and then she talked to the cloud and said, "Hello, cloud," and then all of a sudden the cloud just went, psh, it just disappeared right in front of our face. But speaking about CE5s, Sue, like I talked about Sue Walker, she is the telepath for the Ponte. So the Ponte made contact with her in 2015. She is a professional telepath. She has done work with the CIA and the FBI on criminal investigations and missing persons.
Really cool.
She's been featured on TV. So she's been a telepath her whole life.
She's my kind of lady.
Okay, there you go. And she's been working with the Ponte, ever since. But she wrote a book just a couple of years ago about CE5.
Okay.
And it's called Inviting ET.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I love it.
That
It
on the cover
almost looks like the guy I made you behind you, Michelle.
Yeah, that's PETA on the cover, and he was the first Ponte that I ever met when I was awake. He showed up in my apartment, and he looks exactly like his portrait.
Wow.
But regardless of that, she wrote a book about inviting ET, which all talks about how to have a CE5 and how to do it safely. It has a lot of chapters. It covers a lot of ground. Like I can show you. There's a lot of chapters in a lot of detail.
Wow.
A lot of detail.
Yeah, that's quite a bit.
I'm not done.
Not done. Oh, my word.
Yeah.
Wowzers.
Yeah. So
Wow.
it covers everything in regards to how to do a CE5 properly and safely, and what you can expect and what to do if certain things do happen. So
like in case the military swings by instead.
No, it's more like, what if an ET actually shows up? How do you know they're an ET?
Right.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
How do you know if they're right-minded or wrong-minded? So you have to use your intuition for everything when you're having a CE5, because you never know who may show up.
It's like a seance almost.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because that's one of the things they say. Do not bring a Ouija board, no seances, anything like that. Don't shouldn't have electronics. Making sure you get permission for whatever place that you're going to have a CE5 that's safe. Let's get into some of the chapters. What ifs of facing your fears, because if you're going to have a CE5, usually star nations are not allowed to show up if you are fearful.
They'll never be at my place.
Because if you're fearful, they're probably not going to show up.
That's good. Yeah, that's good to know.
So, and Stephen Greer has some excellent protocols in regards to how to meditate as a group, to bring your consciousness all together as a group, and then project in regards to your location of where you are, so that they can see from their perspective of where you are, where you're located, so they can see your light. And to summarize his 45-minute seminar, because I took it, I was there. It was excellent. Basically, after doing a lot of ohms and meditation, getting yourself into a lower consciousness, you envision what your group looks like from 20 feet above your heads. You also have to have maps. You have to have maps of your area, so that you know what the topography looks like from space of the area that you are in, because you're going to be telepathically projecting those images of those map spaces, and you're moving further and further away of what it looks like from your perspective moving further and further away, so that they can envision from when they're in space of where you are on the planet. And then until you bring your consciousness into space, and then you're talking to them from there, and then that helps to direct them in the direction of where you're going. So that's the Coles Notes version of or what they call it, CE5 for dummies.
Well, I'm really glad that you said if there's fear, they won't break that, because I do have a lot of fear. So it's good to know that.
Yeah, you need to, if you want to have any kind of ET contact, you need to come over your fears, because they're not allowed to make contact that way.
Good.
Contact.
Okay, that's good, because then they're not intrusive.
No,
that's good.
The majority of them are benevolent.
Yeah, they have a lot of kindness, the Ponti. So yeah,
the Ponti. I've met with like 8 different extraterrestrial nations. The reptilian, the Ponti, tall whites.
You've mentioned the mantis as well.
Mantis. I've had 3 encounters with mantis, which were really amazing. I became a telepathic translator for an Alpha Draconian who was 16 feet tall at a UFO conference. That's a whole story on its own. I've had ET contact. I've had Sasquatch visits, and Umo, which are a human race from the Virgo system. They showed up in my apartment one time, and that was the first time I actually saw them physically with my eyes. That was incredible. And I've met with others that look exactly like us, that you can't even tell the difference.
Yeah.
And then of course there's Slaley, who the Arcturian with blue skin. I've met with one showed up who actually looked like Alf. Not kidding you.
See, that's projection for real.
I think that was projection.
Yeah, because he was everybody's favorite growing up.
Yeah, one of them showed up as Alf.
Everybody loved Alf.
I also had one show up, and she showed up as Holly Berry.
Well, that sounds like projection. That's something my husband would do.
She was not hard in the eyes, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, he would not have a problem with her projecting that way.
Yeah. But getting back to the CE5s, she gets into topics of like, will the laws of physics be bent? Sometimes the laws of physics will be bent. She's experienced gravitational anomalies where at home, where all of a sudden her and her husband are floating in the air and then put back down. You may have strange smells that show up. You may have what happens if a portal opens up near the ground near you. What do you do? One thing, you don't go near it, that's for sure. So it goes into a lot of detail of the possibilities of the what ifs of what might happen, and then how to handle it in a CE5 thing.
But I mean, one thing, does she explain, because everybody's expecting to see a ship, they're not necessarily taking into account the terrestrial beings that we share space with, or those who can travel just dimensionally with a thought and just bop about. So CE5 is this geared mostly towards visuals with crafts. Okay.
That's that for the most part, most CE5s will be at that level where you're seeing craft.
Are you creating an invitation with that to have a visit though?
Well, yeah, that's like, as I said, like, those protocols that Stephen Greer does are great protocols to work and meditate as a group, to channel your intentions as a group that you want to make contact.
Yeah, you definitely have to be with people that you trust.
Yeah.
With something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's important, because I tried having a CE5 with some groups, and they brought in some extra friends who were there just for entertainment purposes.
That's what I'm saying, and it ruins it.
It ruined it all
everybody.
Because nothing happened.
Yeah. No.
I talked to Ponti afterwards, and they said the energy wasn't right.
No, and also you could have someone who's got malevolent thoughts with it too, and are there to maybe capture, profit, or hurt them. So they have to be protected as well.
That's a good question.
Okay, Kason Lee, hi. Do you think the blue-colored gods, Shiva, Krishna, and ascended beings mentioned in Hinduism and Buddhism are ETs?
I don't really know, and I don't want to try and guess because I don't know everything. I'd rather not, give any information that could be false because I am not really familiar with, with Hinduism and Buddhism at that level.
I know both of these, they're known as deities, and they're flying around and such, and walks like a duck, talks like a duck, quacks like a duck.
Because that's also levitation with Buddhism and all that stuff.
But they're not usually blue. So I don't know. I don't know. It's a question that I can pose. Or do you think a lot of these, going back into the Book of Enoch and says, do you think a lot of these beings that throughout religious texts and such, flying on flying carpets, for example, or like the Ezekiel's wheel being like a craft, do you think many of these may have been, like spinning off this question, may have actually been ET beings?
Yeah, I do, because I'm good friends with Chris Bledsoe.
Yes.
Who wrote the book UFO of God. I've known Chris Bledsoe since 2016.
Oh, he's been on my list. He's one of my friends to contact. We just have such a waiting list.
Okay. Yeah. No, his
versed.
His ET contact is unbelievable. And what's happened to him, I mean, the people who were involved with his life, everything from the military to the Vatican to NASA, they're all involved with it because it's all pieces of the puzzle. And they said the Vatican too. Diana, he's friends with Diana Pasulka, who's a Vatican representative. And Chris told me that she's been down to the Vatican archives, and some of the stuff that she told him, about wheels within wheels, with these stories in the Bible are actually, it's about ET encounters.
Yes.
So
yes.
And also one thing that that was said, which is it's been well known now, is that some of the words in the Bible were purposely mistranslated, like the word cloud. Cloud, the actual, in many of the texts, the actual word that cloud was replacing the word object. So if you go back and you start reading things like Ezekiel chapter 1, talking about the object of molten metal glowing in the sky coming towards me, all of a sudden it sounds very different. And that was what Diana Pasulka told Chris Bledsoe, and Chris Bledsoe told me. And then Chris Bledsoe was talking about, the exodus from, of Moses in the desert and these pillars of protecting them. They were all UFOs.
Yes. Yes, I completely agree with that. I think there's a lot of things that are lost in translation, a lot of things that were left out, a lot of things that were reworded. The Book of Enoch, I always sort of giggle at it because he's, pretty much, your first sperm donor, technically, if you break it down as to what he said and then what he went on to say to his son when he left for the last time, and that he had hybridized or been part of all of this, and he was shown so many things, and he was, he had experienced so much, and he just evolved because of his contact. When the beings show you the future in the world, in the palm of your hand, it seems to me much like a device, perhaps, that he would have been seeing things and educated on a different level, but without being overly, graphic about it. I think Enoch really was probably one of the very first contactees to participate in hybridization.
Very possible.
See why it was left out.
Yeah.
Ezekiel's wheel, that's pretty self-explanatory as well. However, it's still there.
I understand why they left things out before, but why leave them out now? It's a different time. So let's hope they change that. But there is 54 miles of archives under the ground.
Right.
So that's a lot to walk. Can you imagine walking 54 miles working there? You probably get up, take a taxi, and go out in from somewhere else. Yeah. Hi, Kevin. Yes.
I think there's a lot of amazing stuff out there. What I would like to, I just like to backtrack a quick minute, since we're coming to the top of the hour, slowly getting there. Dolphins. Frequency. Even Carl Sagan, along with other scientists, launched the Order of the Dolphin. Have you ever heard of that organization?
No.
Based on the fact that they believe dolphins would be the key to communication with extraterrestrial beings.
Yeah, I can definitely believe that.
So, what are your thoughts?
I have a very special connection with the whales and the dolphins.
Right.
In fact, actually, one of the last songs written on my last album, Cosmic Angels, is a song that's called A Dolphin's Paradise, Thera's theme. And Thera, that's Thera up there. You see that beautiful girl up there?
Right.
She's my teacher. Her specialty, so I'm glad you brought this up. She came to Earth back in 2018, and her specialty is in the tonal language of the cetaceans and the dolphins. So they speak a very telepathic tonal language, the whales and the dolphins, and they're telepathic. They are the people, they're the ocean peoples. Dolphins are a little bit more like teenagers, and the whales are ancient souls that they're the oldest souls here on the planet, carrying ancient knowledge that goes back to the beginnings of this planet. So, as the Ponte have explained, we've only seen 25% of the extraterrestrials who visit Earth because 75% of the world is covered in water. There are many, many aquatic nations who come from far across the galaxies to visit our oceans, not to see us humans. They go to talk to the whales.
Okay.
Right.
What about the octopus? Is there a link there? Or
Yeah,
is it
I think that the octopus are not indigenous to planet Earth. I think they were brought here. We also know that there are cousins of the dolphins and whales in the Pleiades, in the oceans in the Pleiades. We got that confirmation from the Ponte this summer when we did one of our shows.
Yeah.
So we thought that was fascinating.
Well, I watched that documentary on them, and being Southern Italian, it's in your diet. Well, I took it out right away after watching the documentary and how bright, how intelligent they are, how sentient. I was crying for all the years that I ate it, but I wasn't aware, and I didn't, you don't think of it. It's part of your diet.
You were
But
eating
yeah,
dolphins?
no, octopus. Oh God,
octopus.
Dolphin. No. Have I played with them?
octopus.
Yes, but never a dolphin. No, I'm saying octopus being Southern Italian and, Mediterranean, it's in the diet. But no, I stopped eating it the minute that documentary came out.
Yeah.
That was it for me.
Yeah, the octopus are very intelligent beings.
Yeah, and you don't want it. It's awful.
But that's humanity.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. I sent you a link though, Kevin, because they look at the Order of the Dolphin was sort of the origins of SETI. And I sent you a Harvard link just to have a quick boo at it. But there's a lot of information out there on it. And because of what you do and the connections, you may find it an interesting read if you can dig around and start from there and move on to different articles on it. I found it very fascinating when I found it a couple of years ago, and did another show, entirely on different experiences with, looking at scientific things. And it was interesting to me that Carl Sagan had actually been a part of something like this, along with 10 other scientists, one being Frank Drake. So there's a lot of information. But when you think about it, I always got taken back to the Star Trek episode of the 2 humpback whales that they had to go back in time to get.
I love that episode.
Oh,
I love
right?
that. I cry when I watch that.
But doesn't it speak volumes? And then I turn around and years later find this article. I'm kind of like, that they
all
truly,
connected.
yes,
It's all connected because the whales,
yes.
And the sad thing that I found out, that the whales, they carry a lot of ancient knowledge, and one of the things that Tani had me doing, because I was curious, I wanted to learn tonal language.
Mm-hmm.
They gave me a download many years ago, and like I've got a lot of downloads from the Ponte of information, and downloads are real. Like in the movie Matrix, when Keanu Reeves is downloaded, is like, shh, I know kung fu. That stuff is real. That's ET technology. They can download you with information, and then your brain processes stuff, and then you know stuff. And so they downloaded me one of the things. It was the tonal language of the whales, tonal language, and took me 3 days to recover from that download. But what happened? Well, getting back to the whales, one thing I learned about the whales is that when whales die, some of them will swim to the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah.
And they'll put their mouth into the earth. And they'll sing their last song into the earth to have that information recorded into Gaia.
Yeah, they're beautiful beings.
And then they die. So the information won't get lost.
Now, what does that tell you right there? That's a connection that we could only dream to have.
They live long lives,
So
don't they?
connected.
Yeah.
They do live long lives.
They do.
I want to go kayaking and have one in one of those glass canoes and have one just come right under me. I love them.
There's been reports of crafts coming down close to the water.
That was the next thing I was gonna say.
And dolphins and whales congregating underneath them and just swimming in motion within the shape of the craft and kind of propping out of the water. They're completely connected telepathically with whatever beings are there.
Well, I know Commander Tilcom, he goes and he communicates with the whales directly. To Thera, she swims with the whales. I also know that they're relocating a lot of whales off planet right now because to save them from the extinction level event, which is taking place now, which is happening. So they're relocating a lot of whales, just like in the movie Star Trek, to other ships which have oceans inside these ships.
We've had Captain Paul Watson on a couple of times, and he has stressed the same thing with, if the oceans die, we die.
Oh, we're all gone.
And he's just such an advocate for saving as many of these whales and dolphins and sea life as possible, because he goes, it holds a key to everything.
You really have to educate the third world countries as well. Here on this side, the commercialism and, with certain countries that manufacture, the ones that kill me are the ones that cut the shark's fins off.
And just
I fall apart if some kind of video like that, and just let them fall I'm like, oh my God, like you're not even going to put it.
It's unnecessary. It's unnecessary.
It's so unnecessary.
It's so disgusting.
This is a comment which makes me realize what I'd like to ask is, do you think they were brought here from somewhere else in the first place?
The whales?
Yes.
Very possible. Yeah, it is very possible. There's a lot of stuff that that's on Earth that's not indigenous to this planet, that was purposely brought here. When they talk about panspermia or something like that, like something landing and living off of a meteorite and surviving from space and seeding the planet, No, it's actually a lot more less complicated than that. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of builder gods
Yes.
who bring things to Earth which they think will thrive on this planet, and they're brought from the planets.
Mm-hmm.
Marijuana is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Bamboo is
Mm-hmm.
another one of them. I know
Mm-hmm.
that too, that are not indigenous to Earth. So they bring a lot of stuff, and it's
Mm-hmm.
actually written about also. If you follow the the many of the Aborigines tribes of North America,
Mm-hmm.
like the Zunis and Aztecs, or not the Aztecs, the Zunis and Pueblo people. It's written in their history for hundreds or not thousands of years of Kashinas meeting with the star nations who would come down to them, extraterrestrials, and they would teach them stuff, and they would also trade with them too. It's part of their history. Ask like go and watch any video with Zuni tribe leader Clifford Mahudi. He talks
Mm-hmm.
about this stuff. This is part of their culture. It's always been known. So
I think many ancient cultures had phenomenal relationships with other beings. I think it somewhere along the line it changed, and it probably changed for us in and around Roswell. Where agendas sort of came into play at that point. Because I mean, ancient times. Look at petroglyphs, hieroglyphs, out of place artifacts. I mean, it's a civilization that's gone on for a very, very, very long time. We're not the first kick at the can. There's a lot more to it. And you just look at all of these ancient monuments and structures. There was clearly, ancients emulated what they saw and respected, and it's everywhere. It's everywhere. So
yeah,
there was a relationship there.
and you have to
The
remember.
Hopi and their ancient traditions and their knowledge and their prophecies. Like it's just a lot to that. And I wish we had more time. We might have to do it again sometime, because we're already at the top of the hour, and I can't believe we got here so fast. But
Well, it covered so much information, but there's so much more that we could talk about. Yeah.
well, we'll
I'm
do a
just
part
grateful.
two.
Just grateful we didn't get broken
Yeah.
down.
Why don't we do a part two?
Sure. I'd love to
Okay.
talk more about the cetaceans and the whales, and
Yes.
what the Ponte did for me, because I've written 2 songs which were influenced
Mhm.
by their teachings. No, actually 3 songs.
Mhm.
One of them is called the Whale Song, which people, I've been told by so many people who listen to the Whale Song, and it just brings them to tears, because
Mhm.
I was actually channeling a great ocean bard, and some
Mhm.
of the stuff that this ocean bard was doing,
Mhm.
I'm basically playing like singing a whale on my guitar, and it's
Mhm.
howling, and some of these parts sound like wolves
Mhm.
calling to their tribe or their cubs.
Right.
And that was explained later on. Somebody did a translation that's actually what the whale was doing, was
Mhm.
imitating the call of the wolves, calling their children home.
Mhm.
I fall asleep to the songs of the whales sometimes.
Oh,
I
yeah.
I'll find them on YouTube and then I just crash with that.
I think we have a lot more to talk about. I will message you, and I will throw some dates at you,
Right.
and you can let me know what works for you.
Sounds
And
good.
sound like a plan?
Sounds great. And thank you everyone for listening tonight and your participation in the group chat. I really appreciate your input and comments and listening.
We have a great audience.
Oh, fantastic. We have the best chat rooms, and
Yeah.
they're very interactive, and we see some new faces in here tonight as well, which is great. So I will email you, and thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Oh, and anybody who wants to follow me, my website is pyramidsonmars.com. So you can listen to my music. You can find all my music from there. There's links to Bandcamp. If you want to buy it digital, it's all over platforms like, pretty much any platform you can find my music digitally. Pyramids on Mars. I have a YouTube channel as well. And follow me on Facebook, Pyramids on Mars. Yeah, and I think you'll find my music very enlightening, because it's communicated on a telepathic level.
Thank you. It's all in the write up as well for the show. So if people just go into the write up, they'll find all of that on the YouTube page, on the actual show here on the soundboard. So it's all connected anyway. And we also have your other website as well. And I think that'll be, I'm sure you're.
Oh, my radio show.
Well, I will have the official First Contact. Yeah.
We got that.
Anything you've sent me is up.
Okay. Okay.
So
great.
if there's anything else you want me to put in there, send it to me and I'll do an edit.
Okay. Sure. Yeah.
All righty.
All right.
See you soon.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Thank you. Bye.
Right. Well, everyone, we have come to the end of another fantastic segment. Boy, am I glad this one held up because it was so informative and a whole lot of fun. And big thank you to everybody in the chat room. You guys always make it that much more exciting. We've seen such a few new faces here. So thank you for joining us. We hope you will consider subscribing and returning. As you can see, we're very interactive and we do love to encourage the interaction with our guests. So tomorrow night, we welcome back Constance Victoria Briggs, and she's going to be talking about one of her older books called Unseen World. And it's definitely going to be an interesting show. Again, very interactive. She's really fantastic. We just love her. So officially, big thank you to our sponsors, Folgers Coffee, Justin Snickers, Steve McGinnis. Big thank you to United Public Radio Network, UFO Paranormal Radio. We love you, and we shall see you guys all tomorrow evening. So behave and make sure you're back tomorrow. Good night.